Hello again. I want to do another example, this time talking in more detail about the ifs and the various uh, pieces of coding that we need to have for the next steps. Now, here's the problem I'm going to try. The college has a set of rules for dismissing or putting people on probation. The rules depend on what your cumulative GPA is, grade point average, whether you were in good standing or on probation the previous semester, and what semester you're in. There's a complicated table from inside the dean's area on our web. I've got it here for you. And basically, I want to try to implement that. Now, before I do that, I want to talk about a couple of sort of syntax problems or things to think about. First of all, I'd like to talk about the CA character type. And I have to make some changes here to make it easier to write this. Sometimes we don't want to input a number. Well, you know that from your work in Python. You want to input strings. But in C++, there's another type of item which can input characters. It's called a character. And it's just one character instead of a string of characters. So we have the type, the data type, char, instead of int, instead of double, we have char. We also, character constant is, quote, some character, quote. Notice they're single quotes, not double quotes. This is extremely important in C++. If there were two, if I were using the double quote, that wouldn't be a character, it'd be a string of size 1. I know it seems weird, but again, I remind you that C++ is a very strongly typed language, and char and string are different as far as it's concerned. So, example would be quote P. Now, I'm going to use P to represent probation. So when I want to compare for probation, I'm going to put quote P quote. That is a constant, just like 3 is a constant for integers. I also could have something like quote 8. Again, quote 8 is not the integer 8. It's the character 8, and they're stored differently. And it's not the double 8.0. That's stored differently too. To you and me, they might all be the same thing, but they're not to C++. They're different types. So I'm going to use characters in what we're going to do now. Now, I'd like to also talk a little about Boolean expressions. Again, you've had this kind of thing in Python. The difference is we use words a little that might not be the same, symbols that might not be the same. First of all, one of the things you might find unusual is we have a character type. There is a type bool. which is short for Boolean. And if we have the line bool is it, say is it, where is it would now be a variable, and we have that line in our computer, then we could write if is it, and then whatever we want after that. The Boolean variable, a Boolean variable has two values. The two values are true and false. And those are the constants. Two values, which are the constants also. And those are them. So when you're in a Boolean expression, if you just write a Boolean value, that's either T or F, just like anything else. Now, I'm slightly lying to you. They really have numeric values. But for C++, we can interpret them this way, and it's best to do that. And the constants have to be those words. They can't be numbers, at least as far as I know. So that's the first thing we have with Booleans. We also have a set of Boolean operators. And you are probably used to every one of these. We have the N, which is the symbol two ampersands, not one. 1 ampersand would be bitwise Boolean, and that's for probably 225, not for us at this point. It's not the word and. The word and is Python's way of doing it, not Booleans, not our language. We also have the word or, we have an or, as you would expect, and that's the symbol 2 bars. That symbol is above the enter key, it's the uppercase of the backslash that's above the enter key. Plus, of course, we have not, which is the symbol tilde. Tilde is above the tab key. It's not the minus sign, it's tilde. The definition of these are very simple. Usually they're given by a table. So I'm going to give you two possibilities, two variables, A and B. And I'm going to tell you what A and B is, and what A or B is, and what not A is. Pardon me. There are 4 possibilities. A can be true and B can be true. A can be true and B can be false. A can be false and B can be false, and A can be false, and I think I prefer this one to be T, and then this one would be false. Those are the only possibilities. There can't be anything else. Now, just to make sure, in this table, A and B are expressions which are either true or false. Well, there's the four possibilities. Well, what do we get? If we are talking about the and, both have to be true. So unless both are true, we can't do anything else. When we say A and B is true, we mean both pieces of it are. No way around it. For the or, we only need one of them to be true. We don't need both. Pardon me. And this is false. The or is not an exclusive or. It's an inclusive or, meaning that if both of them are true, the or is still true. There is such a thing as an either or, but that's not the symbol. We don't have a symbol for that, I believe. Then not just flips things. If we had it true, now we have it false, and vice versa. Actually, what you see there is a sufficient definition of and or. And it does make sense for the most part in the way we use the English language. The only thing that might not make sense is when we have both of them true and we say A or B. So the Boolean operators are there. After the Boolean operators, we have the relational operators. And these are pretty easy too. I think I put those, did I put those in? Yes. No, I didn't. So the Boolean operators are the usual ones. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and here there are two surprises here. That is equal. Two equal signs. There will be no syntax error if you put one. It just won't be right. It will be an assignment statement. C++ lets you do things that economically you can actually ask a question, a Boolean, get a Boolean value of something and assign it a value within the Boolean expression. We probably won't do that, but it's there. Now, not symbol is not equal. I think I may have made a mistake. Pardon me. This is not tilde. This is not. It's the symbol exclamation point. I keep forgetting which one is which, but that's it. This is not equal. All right, so we have the 6 relational operators. We can throw them together in almost any order we want, just as long as they make sense. So we could have A equals B or A equals C. That would be a perfectly good expression. The arithmetic operators, the relational operators, are done first. So we don't really need, I don't believe we need a parentheses here. But if you want to make sure, you can put a parentheses around it just in case. Another one we could have is A is less than, A is greater than 7, and A is less than 22. Now, if you look at that, I didn't need the parentheses, but I put them in just to show you. What that says is the number is between 8 and 21. All the numbers up to 21 are less than 22. All the numbers from 8 on are greater than 8. So our number must be greater than 8 and less than 20. Must be greater than 7 and less than 21. That's how you write that. Now, I think that covers all the things I want to cover before I go to write the program. So let's look at the program again. Let's go back up and look at the program. We're going to be inputting 3 things for each student. What semester they're ending, what their cumulative GPA is, and whether they're on probation or not. So I'm going over to start a new program as I do regularly. Create a new project, console, next, standing. And we have using namespace standard. Let's see now. When I develop algorithms, you have to sort of, you should think out the algorithm before you write it, before you write the code. So let's go back here. This is like a table-driven algorithm. It says I have lots of cases, lots of possibilities. I have, basically I win by divide and conquer. I take each of these cases and put down what the answer should be. So that makes it reasonable and easy to do, I hope. That means I'm going to need these 3 items. So the first thing I should do is get those into the computer. And that also means I need to make up some names for them. So let's see, how about CGPA, standing, let's call it old standing, and we had semester. Now the point is I made a mistake right away. I am not going to make old standing an integer. I said that it's going to be represented as a char. So old standing. And I'm going to have a new standing. That's the result that I want to compute. As usual, I see out. I tell the user what I want them to input. I want them to look to input the semester. I'll say input the semester, the CGPA, and the old standing. I would just say standing. And I read those. CN, semester, CGPA, and old standard. So I got them in. That's the first step in our algorithms. You have to read things in. Now let's look at the table. Well, If you're on the, we've got semesters here. We've got 8 semesters here. So it looks like we might want to go with a few if statements. Some of these are easier than others. If you look, if you look at it, the semesters 5, 6, 7, and 8 all have the same rules. So we really only have 1, 2, 3, 4, and everything above that. So I'm going to break it into pieces. I'm going to say, let's start with the semester equal 1. If you are in semester 1, and I can do this in several different ways, but I'm going to try this way. If you're in semester 1, I want to test your QPA. If you're C, G, E, A, and the machine says, the table says if it's less than 1.6, you're on probation. So if it's less than 1.6, then I'm going to say that new standing, and actually that will work here. New standing equal probation. So I did that. Now else if CGPA is less than, and again I'm going to look at what's on here, less than, well, you can't be dismissed first semester, so there's no reason. I don't have to put anything there. You can't be dismissed. Now I have to in that other if. This is called an if within an if. Nested ifs. I presume you did that in the Python. It's not much different. Now we're going to ask the question, suppose your semester is 2. Equal. What are the rules for 2? The rules for 2 are, if you're between 1.58 and 1.79, you're in trouble. If you are less than 1.58, you are dismissed. And if you're on probation and you were on probation before, you're dismissed. So what we have to do is look at 2 possibilities here. First, if you're greater than 1.8, you're in good standing. Well, maybe I shouldn't do it that way. Maybe I should continue the way I was doing it. You have your choice. There's lots of different ways of doing this. You can look, for example, at less than 1.58. So what I'm going to try is the following. I think I'll do it that way. If, pardon me. So, if your CGPA is less than 1.58, or is it less than or equal to? I guess I have to make it less than or equal to. Nope, it says less than. And your old standing equals probation, then your new standing equals dismissed. New standing. So there you are. That's the first step. Else, if your CPPA is less than 1.5 then your new standing is P. If what's going on here? Something was spelt wrong. The machine's mad at me for some reason. I'm not sure why yet. Maybe it's this. It's the spelling of this, pardon me. GP. Otherwise, let me write this. Else, your new standing is good. Now, take a look at that carefully, because it may give you some trouble here. Have I covered all the cases? Let's look. I'm looking at the CGPA. According to this code here, if you are, I didn't cover all the cases. I had a 179 to cover here. So I do have to go back and say else if CGPA is less than 1.8, then the standing is P. Else the standing is good. So this is a typical kind of setup. I'm trying to take all the possible cases. So the first case I look at is 1.58. If you are less than 1.8 and your standing is P, then you're officially dismissed. Now, if your standing is less than 1.58 and this part weren't true, then you're in the else. So the else says one of these isn't true. So let's check. Is CGPA less than 1.8? If it is, we know that old standing can't be P, so we're not dismissing, we're putting on probation. Now these two together cover all possibilities of 1.58. Now we look at 1.8. That's the next cutoff. It can't be below 1.58. We've already checked those off. So it's got to be above 1.58 and less than 1.8. Therefore, new standing is P. And finally, the only thing left is that it's above 1.8. It may be greater than or equal to. I should check. Yes. So I probably should change this to, no, that's all right, because it's less than 1.8, and now it's greater than or equal to 1.8. Some people will waste a lot of things in writing this. For example, they'll insist on putting an if there. Most of the time when you have groups of else's and ifs, it should end in an else. The else is basically everything that I haven't covered above. And if you're going to be fully covering all cases, that's what you want at the end. Everything I didn't have above. Also, some people will say, well, don't I have to say that CGPA is greater than 1.58 here? In line 25? No, you wouldn't be there if it were less than 1.58. You would have been in one of the other two. So you're building up, and that's the best way to do this. Now, are we almost there? Well, all we've done so far is 1 and 2. So I'm ending the section that was under the semester equals 2. Now I'm ready for else if the semester equals 3. It's going to be very similar, I think. Let's see what it's going to do. Let's see if we can figure this out. Semester equals 3. Back to the rules. The rules say that we're looking at 1.7 for dismissal now. So we're going to do exactly the same thing we did before. If the CGPA is less than or equal to 1.7 and the previous standing was probation, then the new standing equal dismissal. Now it's complaining, it's telling me something's wrong. CGPA is the right word there. I do have that part right. I can't see why it's complaining. Let's see, CGPA is less than. I guess I know it's supposed to be less than. I wrote that wrong. But that's not the problem. CGPA less than 1.7. It still does not like that line. This may have to do with that I've set up things wrong, that I missed a brace somewhere. So, else if this part here was the first semester. You had a new standing of B. I should have had an else here because I should have else your standing is good. Now that's the section that is underneath the first if. Here's the second part of that, else if. I have a brace, I open and close a brace. 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 Now I close the if semester equals 2. And now I should be working on if semester equals 3. And I see no reason why that machine is complaining about that. Rewrite the line, sometimes that works. If. I may just have to wait and see because I can't see anything wrong with that at this point. I've looked at all the braces and they seem to be right. So let me just keep going. Else if CGPA is less than now a 1.7, then new standing equals P. And I got the line here that ends that. Now I've got the next else if. And now I've got the CGPA. Now I have to see what it will be if it's 1.89, you get probation. So if it's less than or equal to 1.89, now we have the new standing is probation. Probation. And finally, else if I gotta go up to here, and I've got my else, the new standing equals good. Now I'm almost there. I only have one more case, everything else. Because if you look at it, all the rest of them are essentially the same. So I've got to get this one done. And then this one ends that if statement, that particular branch of the if. Almost done, maybe. Let's see. Those are all done. We just worked on this part here, and we had that, and that if ended the section here for the else if. So we're now ready for the final of that group of big ones up there. So we're going to have the else. Now this means the person is above, is their fourth semester or higher. All the rules are the same. So we don't have to worry about what semester they're in. We just have to worry about the other two things. So let's look. Else if CGPA, else if CGPA is less than, I think it's less than 1.9, and old standing equals, I can't spell that word, equals P, then the new standing I told you I can't spell it, STANDING equals dismissed. And now I have, yes, that's already there for me. So that's done. Else if the CGPA is less than 1.9, then we are talking, oh, I think that's a rule. Let me check again, make sure I have the rule. No, I don't have it right. It's 1.8 at this point. Actually, I have a mistake. The fourth semester is different, but I think I'm going to ignore it for a minute. So this should be 1.8. And then the new standing equals probation. And let me get that. I forgot the brace here. That's why the machine put that in the wrong place. I have that. else new standing equals good. Now, as I said, I noticed a mistake that I didn't like to notice, but I did notice it. The mistake I noticed was that fourth semester is different. I thought I could get away with it, but I have to have a difference for the fourth semester. So I got 3. Then I have the else. It turns out, unfortunately, I'm going to need another one. So I'm going to have to say else if the semester equal 4. Then I have to do one more mess here. Now I'm looking at these were supposed to be 2. I'm losing it a little. I'm sorry. This does happen. 1.9. This is 1.8. 1.9. Pardon me. Then I was supposed to check for 1.8. Is less than 2 was what I was supposed to check for. Then that puts the person excuse me a second, I have to check back here on what this says. 1.9, you can be dismissed if you have probation previously, period. Over here, okay, I'm going to do the following. I'm getting myself lost in this. I've always found that that's a bad thing to do in the middle of a class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on this, and I'm just going to go back and fix it and send it to you. What I really want you to see is the idea of this whole, all these going step by step, by ever-loving, terrible step through all the cases. If semester equals 1, what are the cases? That finishes that. Else if semester equals 2, what are the cases? Now that finishes that one, that one, that one, that one. That finishes that branch. We were up here, 2. That finished that branch. Pardon me. And now I start at the else if 3, and I still have no idea why that's complaining about CGPA, because I'm using it everywhere else with no trouble. So what I'm going to do is test it with an F5. I don't want to go on. So it says I am missing a semicolon. There's the whole problem. I'm missing a semicolon there. And here it says I can't do, I left that out. Now it's right. That was what it was. So there's semester 3. Now I think I'm going to try to finish it because I don't feel good about not finishing it. So let's look at semester 4. Semester 4 says, if you're less than 1.8, you're out. So, if you're less than 1.8 and you've got a P there, you're out. So I go back. If your CGPA is less than 1.8 and your old standing equal P, and you're dismissed. New standing equals D. Else, if the CGPA is less than 1.8, if your standing was good before this, then your new standing equals P. Else, well, your if your CGPA is less than 2, and I needed the if here, pardon me. Else if your CGPA is less than 2, then now that was 1.8 was actually dismissal, I think. Pardon me, I got that wrong. No matter what, you get thrown out. Even if you had a good standing the semester before. So the 1.8 gets you thrown out. So I have to go back here and say, basically, I don't even need to check for this. It's dismissal right away. So if you're less than 1.8, it's dismissal. If you're less than 2, it's probation. Now there's where the problem is. If you're less than 2 and your old standing was equal to P, then you're dismissed. Else, if you're less than that, then your new standing is equal to P. Else, your new standing is equal to G. Oops. And now I have ended that particular branch of it. So now I have the else for everything else. If you were at 1.9 and your old standing was P, you're dismissed. Otherwise, if it's less than 1.9, your new standing is P. Else, if it's less than 2, your new standing is also, let me check and make sure. This part wasn't necessary. If your standing is less than 1.9, you're dismissed. If it's less than 1.9, you don't if it's less than 2, apparently, you P, and otherwise you're on G. I think that's close to right. I won't want to bet my money on it, but I would say so. And then you would write out, C out, status is, and you would put out new standing. And I'm going to use Ind L to get you used to different things. Ind L does what \n does. It gets us a new line. And I think that that is more or less everything I wanted to do. Now again, I'm not sure that I caught all the correct setups up there. I'd have to go through and look at it carefully and test it. The worst part about doing these, and I must admit I hate the fact that you have to do this sometimes, is that you can't see where the braces are because they don't all fit in one item. It can be very difficult to line up the braces, but there is one way that helps. Let me first put this over here so you'll have it. And I'll go down here. And I'll start on a new one right here. One way that helps when you're doing this is you count the braces. So you stay up at the top here. 1 brace, 2 brace. I subtract 1, so I'm down to 1 brace, 2 brace, 1 brace, 0 brace. So there's no open braces. Well, I forgot this one. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0. You got to get to 0 at the end. If you don't get to 0 at the end, you don't make it. That's one way to do it. It does work. But again, I just wish there was some way that the machine would give us more help on figuring that out. I'm going to take a chance and run it and see what happens. There are some errors. I did something wrong. I forgot another one of these. Dang it. All right, see if that takes care of it. Yeah, now I could do it. And it wants a semester, so I'll say semester 3. It wants a CPA 2.6, and it wants the standing, which was good before this. And the new status is good. Now that one works, but I wouldn't want to bet on the rest. All right, that was a rather painful way to get through some of that. I made it more painful than it seemed. The difficult thing is keeping your wits about you when you do it. There are lots of different possibilities. And I use nested ifs. Some people use a concept called case, which I don't particularly like. I may attempt to show it to you later, but I've never gotten used to it for some reason. But I'll put out this information and you can take a look through it and let me know if I made some mistake in it, because some of you are very good at that, and I'm happy to see that you are. So I want to put this, pardon me, I don't know why it's, I want this on the example for if, etc. And I have one other thing I want to show you before I finish. It's going to be homework 2. It's a similar problem. I'm giving you a table, and again, there are only two possibilities here, so it's not as bad as mine was. You have the status of the person who's filing their income tax and the amount of money that they are filing with. And then your job is to figure out what their tax is. So, for example, if you put in $10,000 and they were single, then you'd say, you check on the single. They're single. What's their, how much money? They have 10,000. That's not less than 98.75, but it is less than 40,000. So their tax rate is 12%. That means their tax is 0.12 times their income. When you take 12% of something, you multiply by 0.12. So that'll go out to in a few minutes. I hope that's okay. I hope I didn't lose you too much in all that. But again, look it over. It really, you probably did something like it in Python. I'm not sure, but I'm sure you indent it and then indent it again somewhere in Python. So we'll see you later.